What's happening? It's a little box bob I cut during one of my events. Actually, probably over a month ago, actually. I still haven't even touched it up since I actually unpacked it. And why I'm showing you this is that I'm going to use this as an opportunity. What often happens to me during events, demos, hands-on workshops, is I don't get to perfect the cut of what I've actually shared with the attendees. Glad it came out pretty good, but pretty good ain't perfect. So, after this, I'm going to get it shampooed. I'm going to give some blow dry tips. I'm going to get some hair cutting tips. I'm also going to share some business tips while I'm doing all of it. And I'm also going to share a little bit of history on the Box Bob. Why? Because I find that when I know the history behind the content or subject that I'm actually sharing with attendees, I can add a lot more depth to the conversation. And then it just means that much more. Yeah? Cool. Have an amazing one. And stay tuned for all the tips. Later. What's happening? So mannequin head with the Box Bob already shampooed, ready to rock. I actually have the fringe sectioned out already. I'll talk about why I chose to do that as well in a moment. So what I'm going to go about doing is a technical blow dry. What does that mean? That means it is smooth from roots to ends, and all of the hairs are meeting on one line so that I can check my work. Why is it important to check your work? For me, all right? When I think about a bob in particular, a bob, it's not just a length that goes above the shoulders. The beauty is in the line. So the more perfect the line, in whatever your intention, even if it's choppy, if it's textured, I'm open to all of it, but is it all intentional? And this will help me see that. Benefit number one, when we have perfect haircuts, we have the ability for our clients to style them perfectly. It makes it easier for them to style, and they'll have more versatility and options of how they can style it, because the haircut is cut in a way where everything is all lined up and everything is where it should be, so it will respond well to whatever direction that your guest wants to put it in. Two, actually, once I check that line and it is perfect, I actually just made this haircut last a number of weeks or a month later. Right? If my client can't make it to see me on time and they're delayed because of travel, whatever, I know they're going to come back with a long haircut, not an ugly haircut. And nothing makes me happier than when my guests are coming in to see me and they're getting compliments of their haircuts coming in. All right, and that can happen when everything is checked off and everything is exactly where it should be. Three. I personally, in my career, I have striven to keep my clients out of the chair for as long as possible. Meaning, I want to provide such a quality of service that it lasts for a very long time, providing more value, okay? And when I say that, clients really respond to that. They love that ability. They love the ability that they might be able to move a haircut because of whatever they got to address, and it still is ready to rock and still looks good, all right? That adds more value to the price, which then allows me to actually charge more, right? Because whenever the value goes up, the price can go up. When the price and the value are not in alignment, that's actually when you'll start having problems. So those are the three primary reasons I go about doing a technical blow dry when I go about doing it, and how it served me, and why it actually, which is most important, serves our guests. Cool? Cool. Bangs is the next lesson. Talk to you in a minute. Later. And we're back. What's happening? So I'm about to address my fringe section, right? So what I'm going to do is a blow dry, and actually I'm going to do this to the rest of the head. It's called the flat wrap blow dry. What is flat wrapping? Flat wrapping is meant to control the root. All right, so that the root goes straight out of the head, and flat wrapping allows you to control growth patterns so that when you're checking your haircut, you can actually have everything in alignment to make sure that everything is where it should be. So the first thing we're going to do with a flat wrap is we're going to pay attention to this type of brush. This is essential. At this point, I've actually grown to like this brush better. It's a Vess. Although the bulk of my career, I would be famous for saying to all of my assistants, I'm nothing without my Denman, all right? So something that addresses the root, and I think this is very important in styling. You know, all styling actually begins at the root. It don't begin at the ends. If you teach your clients that, that's gold right there. Second, whenever you give your client, if you are to give your client any sort of bangs that are above the eyes, this technique is essential, because this will knock out any of that growth pattern that moves onto the front hairline. So the way it'll go is I'll go in this direction, right? And I'll be focused the blow dryer on the root. Don't worry, I'm actually going to do it live. I just want to be talking so you can hear me. Then we'll be blow drying so you can see me, yeah? Then I'll switch hands and I'll change the direction that I'm going, focusing on the root. What this does is it confuses the root and then it will wind up going straight, okay? After the root is dry, I will move into a technique called leafing, in which case I will be moving like this with the blow dryer, and that will be addressing my mid-lengths and ends, actually, as I'm completing my fringe so that at the end of it, I can actually perfect the line and create that really strong square fringe that was my initial intention. Cool? Cool. Check out some of the demo. No sound, but there's a lot of info in there, right? Cool. Talk to you later. Later. Not so bad for the rough draft. That's what my teachers used to call it. Anything that was cut wet, my teachers always used to call it the rough draft, right? Once it's dry, now I can perfect, yeah? I'm going in here similar to the way I would with a client, to be honest with you. I would ask them to close their eyes. I have a face shield that I'll allow so that I can actually cut the bangs so that they won't get hair on their face. And to be honest with you, I'll do it right at zero elevation, and I'll just ask them to close their eyes and trust. And then I just move through and I actually go about perfecting that line, looking for anything that is not going with the pack so that I have that perfect square fringe that, quite frankly, I love to do just because I love to look at something that's that sharp. And to be honest with you, more importantly, that's exactly what my client deserves. Cool? Cool. All right. One thing that I also wanted to address here is through my entire career, I've always given complimentary bang trims and neck trims. This would be an example of a neck trim. I'll address it later when we get to that place. In between their haircuts with my compliments. Why? One, bangs grow out faster than the rest of the haircut. So if the haircut is to look fantastic, then actually the bangs will need maybe 1 or 2 trims in between full haircuts. And that's actually my best business card, right? Is beautiful looking haircuts, right? 2, it's an opportunity to connect with my guest in between haircut appointments. How you doing? How do you like your haircut, right? Is there anything that isn't working perfect for you? How are you loving your haircut? Notice the verbiage. How are you loving it? I don't want to talk about like, I want to talk about love. And if I don't hear love and I hear like, then my next question is, how do I turn like into love, right? And then from that place, make future plans. If it's something really quick, I can address it in the moment, and then I can move on. This has been something I do it to this day. Now it works a little bit differently. The bulk of my career, I worked side by side with an assistant. And just so any of you who are working side by side with an assistant, then it becomes super efficient because your guest comes in while you're finishing up your last. And then as soon as you're done with your last, you go right over to the bang trim, which your assistant has sectioned out and blow dry perfectly for you. So you could just go in, trim it, and check in. What's going on? How's the job? How's the kids? How's the relationship? How's the haircut? How's this? How's that? Whatever. My God, it was so great to see you. I can't wait to see you next time. Boom, 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 boom. And there we go. Always please remember, anytime you get to connect and strengthen your relationship with your guests is always good business. All right. Yeah, it takes a little bit of extra effort. Yeah, you're running around a little bit more. Yeah, you just did something for free. But remember, always look to the long dime, never the short nickel. Because when you do these kind of things that really take so little of our effort as hairstylists, they have such big meaning to our guests. And that's how you get that loyalty, so that you can maintain your clientele and so that you could count on your revenue month to month so that you can pay them bills. Yeah? Cool. Have an amazing one. I hope you're finding this useful. We'll check in when it's perfect. Later. What's happening? Bangs, check. All right, so now, next, after that's complete, now I'm actually gonna flat wrap the rest of this haircut. I have to tell you, bobs, in styling them for your guests, the flat wrapping technique is perfect because it's actually something that all of your clients can do, right? Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna move through this entire shape, going in one direction, like this, paying particular attention to the growth pattern in the back, right? Or through the crown, excuse me, right? And I'll literally go around, flat wrap. See that? Wrap that. Then I will change hands and I will shift the direction. And I will keep doing this until my roots have been dried and all of the growth patterns have been addressed. All right? So that my technical blow dry is actually technically perfect so that I can check and perfect those lines. Other thing, I didn't mention this when I was doing the flat wrapping through the bangs, to the fringe. I was taught when flat wrapping to use no nozzle. To use the nozzle brings too much directionality and the hair starts flying around. With no nozzle, you kind of dry with a shotgun approach as opposed to a sniper rifle approach. So actually, you'll do your flat wrapping quicker with no nozzle and with a lot more control. Pro tip. All right. Here, I'm gonna do a little bit, no sound. You see what I do, and then we'll check in for final results. All right. Later. And so it goes, back and forth until those roots are dry. And then what will happen at the end when the roots are dry, that's when I will pull the hair back like this, and I will go into my leafing, which looks like this. And that's how I'll perfect my mid-lengths and ends. We'll check in when it's all done, yeah? Cool. Later. Just don't let it get too bubbly. Chase the brush with the blow dryer. See how it's behind the brush, not on it? That'll give you a nice, smooth bevel. Yeah, I could check that. I cheated though. What's happening? So one thing about the box bob, which is relevant, is there's always some sort of an undercut. All right. Why? Because if the length, traditional box bob length hits the lips, and if the length hits the lips, it'll be up here, right? So, and mind you, this is a box bob, is not a graduated bob. It does two different things. Box bob is a lot heavier, right? Graduated bob is stacked. You'll get more of a head shape, right? It's built in as triangular graduation is a graduated bob. Box bob is this is gone and the bob sits on top, okay? So in this instance, when I showed the team how to cut this, I took it into something that's less aggressive and I found to be very salon suitable. So I did a really short undercut round graduation to the back. So I went diagonal sections going this direction, and then I went diagonal sections going this direction. See, once you start taking out clippers, a lot of people are like, what are you doing? Hold the presses, right? Once you do something like this and it grows into a little bit of softness and there's some hair, I've done a lot more aggressive than this too, right? You want to be aggressive enough that it sits flat and doesn't poke out, all right, underneath the bob that's going to sit on top of it. But this is an essential feature of the box bob, all right? So I've done it. It always depends on density. Generally from the low crown or low occipital to, I do mastoid process because then everything that sits on top of it can be a solid bob line, so that works great. And whether you decide to straight up shave it, and I got to tell you, if your guest lets you shave it, the shit is lit. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? It's amazing. It looks great. And it's got a little edge to it, but not too edgy, right? But when you do this, it takes on a whole softer veneer and it opens up the possibility of this haircut to a whole lot of clients that otherwise wouldn't actually get it. Okay? Cool. Hope you found this useful. Now, actually, as you see, I'm separating it out so that I can flat wrap this too. Right? So I make sure that that's laying nice and flat so I can show my client how to do it. This is something you want to show your client as well because this is a bit different part of the haircut. Okay? And with all of these little tips, you know, everything will sit just right the way you intended and ultimately the way your client wants to see it look. Most important. Cool? Cool. Let me get down to business. Later. Not too shabby, huh? Right? So here we are. This is the technical blow dry, right? So now see how I can see where the line is? See where I can see the imperfections? See how I see where I can adjust it, where the weight sits? I will say, that front though, that's amazingly symmetric considering I did it during a live demo in a class, which is always great. Now here's the deal. I want to call out something. So if you look at one of the earlier videos, I was like, I picked up this, I was flat wrapping, and then I picked up the little round brush, right? And I was like, shh, like this, right? That's my little joke with all of you. So here's the deal. You can totally do this all with a Denman or Vess, all right? If you want to smooth out the ends and change directionality, really, like I'll take this piece in the front, you can take a sliver of it, and you'll roll your Denman, say here, or Vess, as the case may be. And you do something like this. And that's how you can polish off the ends or the mid-lengths, all right? Tilt it back a little bit if it's kicking forward, tilt it forward a little bit if it's kicking back, and you control the direction of the ends, as I actually just did. So here's the deal. And why did I do it, and why did it? That was my little joke from one hairstylist to hopefully a lot of hairstylists, is honestly, got it. In the end, sometimes you got to take that shortcut. Sometimes you got to cheat. Because sometimes that's the most efficient and effective way to work when the heat is on and you're fully booked and you got bang trims in the middle of it and all this is happening. So, just to reiterate what I wound up doing with this round brush, right? No matter what, the roots are still always about this brush. All right, the Vess or the Denman, or Denman-like brush, I'll call it, all right? Now, ultimately, in the end, some people's hair just isn't that smooth and isn't that easy to control for the mid-lengths and the ends. It's difficult to get smooth, whatever the case may be. Or maybe you can just get that tension better using a smaller round brush. Couple points. One, small round brush, not big round brush. Big round brush makes bubble. Small round brush, you can get sleek. Two, when you're working with it, and I showed it during the blow dry, but I wasn't talking, I was being sneaky. But I want to turn you on to this technique. See, small, because the trick here, and I think I shared it, but I want to make sure if I didn't, is when you're blow drying and you want something to not be bubbly, don't over direct the root, right? That's too much body. I'm gonna get a bubble in this instance, right? And make sure that when you're working, the blow dryer is behind. See how it's buckling the hair? When it's on, it'll make a bend, right? And that's bubble, right? When you're behind, you're buckling the hair, and then you bring it all the way to the ends. See, and even at the end, I'll buckle it right here so that it falls more subtly in that type of an arc like I was describing. This I can check. A bubbly haircut is every bit as impossible to check as one that is curling irons all through it and all this other stuff, if you're trying to get that perfect line. Okay? So I just wanted to call that out. I didn't want you to think I was slipping or being sneaky, but I did want to tell you that that's definitely one of those shortcuts that can totally work. Just remember those little tips with the round brush, the size, and where to place the blow dryer in proximity to it so that you don't get bubble, but you actually get a sleek, subtle bend. Cool? Awesome. I'm going to go about perfecting this line. All right? And when it's all done, we'll check in and I'll show you the results. I'll also share a little bit about the history of the box bob. I'll share some other stuff about it so that when you're cutting it, so that when you're bringing it up to your clients, or if you're teaching it to a group of amazing industry professionals, you can add that extra depth to it, right? So that like clients aren't like, oh yeah, that's a cute haircut. It's like, oh what? That's all that's going behind this haircut? That's amazing. Trust me, it happens to me all the time because I'm that history person that always reads about everything, haircuts, hairstyles, all of that included. All right? Cool. Hope you found this useful, even my little sneakiness. I'll talk to you later. What's happening? So I'm going about to perfect these lines. I thought I'd kick in and just do something that I've always done. One, if you notice I'm sitting. Why am I sitting? I find it a lot more effective and efficient for me to check lines and create straight lines if I'm looking dead at them rather than looking from this perspective. So it's more efficient, more effective, takes less time. Boom. There's, clients behind the chair. Busy day, right? Two, I still will take sections when I go up. Not smaller sections, but sections. Why? If I try and correct the line of the entire back, there's too much hair. I'll wind up pushing it, and actually it will be the most ineffective thing I'll ever do ever, because I'll keep on making it imperfect while trying to make it perfect. So I need to break it down into parts so that I have enough hair that I can truly correct and refine and perfect, and then drop down the next section, and then I will do the same thing. Another point, if you notice, I did a little zigzag down the back, because the one thing I don't want to do is do a straight vertical part, then separate it like this. Then as we move up and keep correcting or perfecting the haircut, then I got to split down the back too. So that zigzag will help to avoid that as you're checking your work from a haircut perspective. It's one of those tricks that works to blend sectioning when you're doing blow dries. Works the same thing when you're perfecting haircuts. Yeah? Cool. Hope you found this is useful. And we'll check in as I progress. Yeah? Cool. Later. Awesome. Welcome back. And what's happening? I got to tell you, I'm going about perfecting this line. There was a couple of things that I wanted to share that I'm doing as I'm doing it. And as you can see, now we're starting to move into what I'm looking for here, right? Couple of things. One, I use my left hand as a right-handed cutter to stabilize my right cutting hand so that I can really stay on line. And so that it's not wavering in the air, but I'm using my hand to actually make sure and ensure that it stays horizontal. Second, something else that I'm doing is I'm being very conscious to go underneath it as well so that I'm removing any potential graduation that may have happened when I initially cut it. Okay, that can happen because of head movement. It could happen because the way I cut it, when you cut it in your fingers, it's not like right against the head. So it's a little bit off. So there'll be a little bit of a graduation there. Yeah. So when I'm perfecting it to make sure this is all one line, I want to make sure I'm hitting that graduation, getting rid of it so that it makes a solid, strong line like this. 3, I'm noticing as well, this is too perfectly straight. What do I mean? As I was looking at it from profile view, what I saw, see how it's a little back heavy here? Or maybe it's actually perfectly square. But this is a problem because this is going to grow in faster than this. And this is denser than the front, right? Front is here, the back starts here, right? So as far as the length is concerned, right? So this is going to drop faster, and then it will grow out as it starts here. It will start going like this as it grows out, all right? So what I want to do is cut it oh so subtly A-line, oh so subtle. See that difference? Not like this, but like that. So that as it grows in, I'm anticipating the back dropping quicker, so that as it grows in, it grows into this. See? And then your client comes in, maybe a little bit below the lips, but that sucker is square as a brick. Does that make sense? Right? Remember, it's not only good enough to think about where the hair is when it leaves you. It's very important to anticipate what it does when it's gone. Think when you're doing your haircut, what will this look like in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the case may be and whatever the length is, and anticipate that far in advance so that you can actually foresee these dynamics, so that if your guest actually, has to miss an appointment or whatever the case may be, actually it keeps growing out in proportion, and they'll still look great, even though their haircut appointment may be late. What? There you go. I hope you found that's useful. Great. We'll check in when it's perfect. Amazing. Later. What's happening again? So I'm moving into the sides to perfect my line. And I have to tell you, as important as it to take sections in the back, I don't care what kind of bob you're cutting, always take sections to check your line in the front. If you don't, this is where you cut holes where you didn't have holes in the first place because of ears. A lot of things happen in this area, and it demands it be broken down, assuming you really want that laser line and that perfect line for your guest and as representative of your own work. All right? Be aware of that. Hair gets caught behind the ears. Stuff starts bouncing. You'll see if you do this whole side, you'll be pushing hair this way and that way, and you will move so far away from intention, and you'll actually wind up creating problems that actually weren't even there in the first place. And what a drag is that? When you go to correct your haircut was great in the first place, and you move it and correct it into some place where it shouldn't have been, and you're like, great, I just made a hole. Wow, perfecting my haircut, how great. All right, and this type of a breakdown helps you avoid that. Again, more time consuming perhaps, but again, this type of work will keep the guest out of my chair another, let's say this, I wouldn't have this guest come in for a full haircut until 7 to 8 weeks. I will trim the bangs, and I will lift up, and I will trim the undercut so that it actually maintains its initial purpose, but full haircut will be about 8 weeks, which is a pretty amazing length of time from one haircut to the other haircut for anything bob, right? And again, it's that value that matters the most, all right? And show them, give more value for the price. Stay away from me longer. You stay away, it still looks good. That all means things still, yeah? Take advantage of it and think about what it is to create that type of a shape that grows out in that way. Trust me. In the long run, all of your guests will appreciate it. Hope you found this useful. I keep saying I'll check in at the end, and I keep checking in before the end. This time, I'm really checking in at the end when we're all done. Later. What's happening? And in the end, Oops, see? Even clip fell off my shirt. In the end, you got to know when to call it quits. I've been talking about perfection. I've been talking about all of these various different things. Here's the deal. Perfection doesn't really exist. You keep combing it, some hair will always pop out. You can perfect this endlessly, honestly, and you'll never achieve it. So you have to get as close as you can. Your intention has to be there and your commitment has to be there as well. This is what I ended up with. I'll spin it around so we have maximum light. See that strong line? Ooh, una. Go from underneath. Anybody else here have post-traumatic stress syndrome about their teachers checking their haircuts with mirrors underneath? That's me. That's the way I think about it always. You know, when it comes down to it, even now, 23 years later, the voices of my teachers still talk to me. You know, they still tell me what to do, and they still keep me honest because I still always listen to it so that I can remember. I can remember from a time when I was learning when that perfection would actually pass me out of a haircut. You know, we can get lazy with that when we're back to back with clients year after year, multiple decades, you know, and I will always be so grateful for all of my teachers and those voices, because no matter how many years have passed, and teaching has helped me hold me accountable too, you know, but those are the voices that remind me of why I fell in love with haircutting, that remind me what it is to have a commitment to artistry, and what it is to always push the envelope a little bit further, so at least you get closer and closer to that ever elusive perfection. Yeah? Cool. Hope you dig this. You know, it's definitely something that's on trend lately. Just saw Furiosa Mad Max with my wife the other day. That movie takes place in like 2500. Furiosa was rocking the box Bob. I'm just saying, I'm ahead of the trend actually. Just playing. Right? But they're using it in movies. And I'll tell you something. One of my good friends, amazing teachers, mentors, and actually became a partner in me running an apprenticeship program with Debbie Alley. You know, she always called the bob her desert island haircut. If she was stranded on a desert island, she would she just could only do one haircut. She would do bobs. And I agree with you, Debbie, because honestly, bobs are a classic. And if I live to the year 2500, I guarantee you, somebody will still be cutting bobs. You dig? Cool. Have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you found this useful, inspiring, thought-provoking, and got your wheels turning a little bit, yeah? Cool. Have an amazing rest of your day. Talk to you later. Later.